New videos every day.
Are you eating a diet that is likely to make you fat? We all know that we're not supposed to eat fast foods, but what is it about fast foods that makes them so fattening? Are there foods that we can eat that won't cause us to gain weight? What is it about the foods that makes them so fattening? Is there a combination of foods that's really kind of guaranteed to cause obesity? In order to answer these questions, we're going to take a closer look at some biology principles and some basic principles of nutrition. Your body is an engine similar to that of a car. It produces motion by burning carbon-based molecules and oxygen. And really, a car engine is pretty much the same, it just burns a different form of carbon-based molecules. So in a car, we have a gas tank that stores the gas or the energy, and there's a fuel line that carries the gas to the engine, where it's then burned up and converted into motion. So the body works in a similar way, just in a different order. When we eat food, the fuel goes directly into the fuel line and then directly into the engine. So the engine would be all of the cells in our body that compose all of our different organs and that need energy to help them run and do what they do. Only when there is an excess of fuel that cannot be used by the body immediately does the fuel go into the fuel tank or storage or fat. So the fuel line is our bloodstream, the engine is our cells doing all of the things that make our bodies work, and the fuel tank is our extra storages of fat that only get created if there is an excess of fuel in the first place. So you can see that in a car, the fuel is stored in the gas tank and the car engine just pulls fuel as it's needed. But with our bodies, we actually, when we eat, are putting fuel directly into the fuel line. It's going directly into our engine, and only the excess energy that our bodies can't use ends up going into the gas tank, or the storage of our fat. There are 4 basic forms of fuel that the body can burn. Those are carbohydrates, both simple ones like sugars and complex ones like starches, alcohol, proteins, and fats. And I gave you that list in order of which one is burned most quickly in the body. So sugars, or simple carbohydrates, burn up the fastest. Almost instantly, when you eat something that is a simple sugar, it almost immediately turns into energy and is used by your body. Complex carbohydrates take a little bit longer to turn into energy, and alcohol actually has to be converted in the liver before it can be used, so it takes a little bit longer. Proteins take a little bit longer than alcohol, and fats take the absolute longest amount of time for your body to break down and convert into energy that it can use. So why is this important? Because the only time that your body stores fat is when you put too much fuel into the fuel line in the first place. So if you're flooding your blood with sugar, any of that excess sugar or excess energy that cannot be used is going to be turned into fat. This is also important to understand because the body is going to use the fuel it can burn up the most easily. So if you are flooding your blood with sugar, it's going to metabolize that sugar before it metabolizes the other things you're eating. So if you are putting way too much sugar into your blood, then it won't even begin metabolizing the proteins and the fats that you may be eating. In other words, if you are eating too much energy, too much sugar, too many calories when you eat, you're going to be giving your body more energy than it can use, and your body's going to be storing fat. And if your body is storing fat, then you're not going to be able to burn fat. And if you're trying to lose weight, you need to stop storing more fat and stop ingesting more energy or fuel than your body can use. So what happens when you eat fast food, which is crammed with carbohydrates? Let's take a look at a typical extra value meal, quarter pounder, fries, and a Coke. The hamburger alone contains 9 grams of refined sugar, probably high fructose corn syrup that is added into the hamburger bun and sauce. It has 40 grams of starch or complex carbohydrates, mostly from the bleached white flour bun. It has 26 grams of fat, since the hamburger meat is 50% fat and it has cheese on it. It also has 29 grams of protein. In total, there are 510 calories, and of those, 290 calories come from fat. And then we add on a medium fry, which contains 48 grams of carbohydrates from the potatoes and 19 grams of fat from the GMO canola oil that it was cooked in. That's another 380 calories, where 170 of them come from fat. And then we add on a medium soda. That's another 58 grams of sugar, mostly from the high fructose corn syrup, which comes out to another 210 calories of pure sugar. This entire meal contains 155 grams of carbohydrates, which is 620 calories of sugar that are added into your fuel line or your bloodstream every time you munch one down. 155 grams of carbohydrates. Now that is a whole lot of sugar. That is equivalent to about 39 teaspoons of sugar, or just over 3 pounds of apples to get that same amount of sugar. So at any given time, if the amount of sugar in your blood exceeds 1 teaspoon, your body goes into a diabetic state and it releases insulin and is telling that insulin to go ahead and store that excess sugar as fat. So at this point that you've started eating your extra value meal, you have more than flooded your blood with more than 1 teaspoon of sugar. So your body has already gone into that mode of saying, okay, we're good, we have enough energy, we need to store the rest of this energy that's coming in as fat. So not only is that excess sugar and excess carbs being turned into fat, but all of the grams of fat that you're eating with that meal aren't even being metabolized because your body has already gotten more energy than it can handle. So what do you think happens to all of that extra fat that you're also consuming with your meal? And that was just with medium fries and a medium Coke, where there's a whole lot of people out there that are going to supersize their meal. But what do you think happens when you supersize your extra value meal? You supersize yourself too. Eating a high amount of carbohydrates and a high amount of fat is a recipe for massive weight gain. And most of the fast food in America is high carb, high fat, and medium protein. And even if you look at the different restaurants, most of the food is following that same ratio of high carb, high fat, and medium protein. And you have to realize that when we're talking about high carb and high fat, that includes all of the fried foods. So especially French fries and even your breaded meats like chicken nuggets or fried chicken. That also includes all of your potato chips, tortilla chips, or other fried chips like that. And it also includes the fried breads like donuts or breadsticks. Other high-carb, high-fat foods include sweetened creams and oils like ice cream, or the whipped cream that they put on top of your Starbucks double mocha latte frappe thingamajig. And this also includes most of your baked goods like ding-dongs and ho-hos, Twinkies, and Little Debbie snacky cakes. Not only are you pairing the hydrogenated oils that they use to extend shelf life and increase the firmness of the food, you also have the cream center, which is just whipped vegetable oils or fat that have even more carbs, even more sugars added into them in the form of refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup. This also includes candies like milk chocolate, which combine the fat from the milk and the carbohydrates from all the sugar. And unfortunately, it also includes things like pizza, which combines the huge amount of carbs in the crust with a high amount of fat due to the cheese or the other meat toppings that you might find on top. And if you haven't figured it out yet, most of the foods that I've mentioned, which are all high carb and high fat, are generally considered junk foods. Now, at some point in history, a hamburger was actually probably a pretty well-balanced food. It contained meat, which was probably more meat than fat, and probably was made with a whole wheat bun, or at least a bun that didn't contain added high fructose corn syrup. But at this point, the fast food hamburger is not a balanced meal and has to pretty much just be considered as junk food. So if you are trying to lose weight, Just stay away from the high carb, high fat foods. Just stay away from the junk foods. They are a recipe for diabetes and other blood sugar problems, and they are going to cause you to gain weight. Whenever possible, it's always going to be best to cook a meal at home. Not only can you stay away from the hydrogenated oils and the added sweeteners and high fructose corn syrup, but you can get more protein from higher quality meats, and you can incorporate fruits and vegetables into your meals to help fill you up without spiking your blood sugar. And if you're going to eat bread, try to opt for a 100% whole wheat bread, or at least something that does not have high fructose corn syrup added to it. When you eat a whole wheat bread or a whole grain, it contains a lot of fiber, and that fiber helps to minimize the intensity of the blood sugar spike. So it takes longer for the sugar to release into your blood, and you stay fuller longer, and you have a less severe spike in your blood sugar. Now, even better than that is to eat sprouted grain breads, which is by far the most healthful thing you can do to help optimize your body being able to use that energy and not having to store so much of those carbs as fat. Another recommendation that I would make, and that would come as no surprise to you, is to eat more vegetables and fruits in your diet. In terms of our nutrition, fruits and vegetables are really the most nutritionally vital thing that we can be eating. They are absolutely necessary for our bodies to function the way that they're supposed to. And if you're feeling like your body's not functioning at its best, then you probably need to be eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. Another thing to realize is that they contain a whole lot of fiber, so that they're going to be able to fill you up and keep you full a lot longer. Remember how we said that it would take 3 pounds of apples to equal the amount of sugar in a quarter pounder? You're going to be able to eat a lot more, stay a lot more full, and feel a lot better if you are optimizing eating more fruits and vegetables and a lot less carbs and high-fat meals. And when you're going to eat meat, I would recommend going to the butcher and purchasing some lean cuts of meat from them. It's just ridiculous to think that the meat in fast food is 50% fat. You don't have to eat meat with that much fat in it. And the last recommendation would be to lay off the soda. You just have to realize that when you're drinking a soda, it's pretty much all going to turn into fat because it contains way more sugar than your body can use. And you're usually drinking that soda with something else that probably contains carbs and sugars itself. And even if you are eating a meal that's just protein and just fats, if you're eating it along with a soda, then you're creating that horrible combination of high carb and high fat, and that equation is going to end up in weight gain. Another contributing factor to weight gain is exposure to toxins and other toxic substances. In a future video, we're going to ask, what is a toxin? And we're going to find out, does our food contain toxins too? Are we turning into corn people? Would you believe that up to 70% of your body is actually made of corn? In a future video, we're going to take a closer look at refined corn products and why they are one of the absolute worst substances that you can put into your body. If you liked this video, please click on the thumbs up and be sure to share it with your friends. In this video, we spoke about how the high carb, high fat combination makes fast food a disaster for weight gain. But can fast food also be the reason that you're compulsively overeating? We've actually got 2 foods about the addictive nature of fast food, and you can watch them in the upper left and upper right hand corners. And if you want to learn more about the foods you should be eating and why junk foods are junk and superfoods are super, you can check out the video in the bottom left corner. And if you'd like to hear my list of the top 10 most obesity-causing fattening foods, you can check that out in the bottom right corner.